Right now, the Common Core debate, the guidelines supposed to prep kids for college and test their progress along the way. But is the program teaching what it claims or just prepping students to take better tests? And then, policing the web. Should kids be given a delete button for what they post online? And what would that really mean? Plus, cracking down on so-called revenge porn when protecting people conflicts with possession and free speech laws. And later, pick a winner. Clinton, Cuomo, Christie, all getting high marks in a new poll when it comes to New Yorkers. So who's got the highest scores and who's going to win our region in a 2016 showdown? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I am Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Monday evening, November 18th. You know, back in the 60s and the 70s, politicians and the positions they supported had a pretty straightforward litmus test for their public popularity. If you lost Walter Cronkite, like Nixon did with Vietnam War, well, you were done. Later, Johnny Carson and other late-night comics, they were a handy gauge of where the American public stood on something. Just listen to the monologues. Well, in recent years, you could argue that Saturday Night Live, well, it fills that role. And if that's true, Obamacare is in some trouble.
Are you feeling depressed? Run down? Like you just can't win? Are you the President of the United States? Ask your doctor for Paxil, second-term strength. The only antidepressant strong enough for an embattled second term. So you can get back on your feet and start running the country again.
Well, that's not the only tough side here for the president and his signature program this weekend. On the Sunday shows, his former staffers now sound a whole lot like his critics.
I think right now they're in triages. Once you've stabilized, how do you give confidence to the American people and to the president himself that you have this under control?
This amid free-falling approval numbers for the president, between 41 and 39% in all the recent polls, each all-time lows for President Obama. Now, the only sign of hope for the president on Obamacare right now, well, an op-ed piece in today's Washington Post from 3 Democratic governors explaining why the program is working in their states. Now, the state of Washington's Jay Inslee, Kentucky's Steve Beshear, and Daniel Malloy from right here in our region in Connecticut, all Democrats, wrote, among other things, the following in this piece. Quote, "Our political and community leaders grasp the importance of expanding health care coverage and have avoided the temptation to use health care reform as a political football." Well, let's bring in our panel tonight here and see where the president stands right now, not just with the public, but his chances going forward on this issue. Jeannie Zaino, of course, with us, one of our favorites. Jeannie, a professor of political science at Iona College and a professor of campaign management at NYU. Here, as usual, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. How do you read the numbers? I know they're not good, but if you look a little deeper into the numbers, they still don't like House Republicans. They don't like basically Washington in general right now. How much of a window does this president have to turn this thing around?
I think he's got a very narrow window. I think we're looking at a few dates. One is November 30th, one is January 1st, and then 6 months, the 6-month mark, to how many people have signed up. It was 7 million we needed, or they needed, you know. So I think the window is very narrow. That said, I think there is an opportunity. If they get the website fixed and people are able to enroll, the 80% that they said today or the other day may be able to enroll, that would be okay if this thing gets rolling. But if it doesn't, they have big trouble ahead. And the trouble is not only about health care, it's about the rest of his agenda. Gun control, immigration. I mean, you can't have a president for 3 years sitting stagnant. Because
for the first 5 years, whatever challenges people had with the president, competency wasn't one of them. And I heard certain people draw the analogy that the Obamacare rollout was the Katrina moment for President Bush. Obamacare rollout was for this president. This is the first time he didn't seem ready for prime time.
Didn't seem ready for prime time. And I've been saying over and over again, look at the Federalist Papers. I hate to do it, but they're the best papers ever written. Look at what Alexander Hamilton said. If you're going to argue for a strong central government, it's got to be effective and efficient. They missed that mark on this. He still has a window to fix that, but they missed that mark. That's a huge problem for the president. If you're going to argue for big government, it's got to be big government that works. There's a difference. And so he missed the mark, and I thought the most striking thing was at his press conference to say he didn't know. If he didn't know, he should have known, and that is a big problem
He took
for President
accountability,
Obama.
but you're right. Which was worse here, that he thought it would be all right or that no one told him, that whole bubble presidency. And Dominic, I haven't heard anybody close to this that doesn't think they're going to fix the website. But my question is, even if they do fix it, can the damage be repaired? I'll do the politics with Andrew in a second. From the public, from your end, they got to get people, and even if it's November 30th, it's by the spring. They got to get a certain base, including healthy young people, to sign up for this thing. Can they repair the optics that this thing's such a mess that it's not worth spending 2 hours of your life sitting there not getting through?
Yes and no. There is a window of opportunity to repair Obamacare, to repair the website, but I really believe there's been permanent damage done to the president's health care initiative and to his legacy, not just to this. He is now seen, for lack of a better word, as a stumbling president who's not in charge of all the details. And to your point, that was not the case that was made during his first term. He's run into second term blues, and as of right now, it's not looking good. Saturday Night Live, I don't pay much attention to that. That's not a
real gauge.
Right,
You know,
but it's not looking good.
the math, Andrew. You had quite a few Democrats that joined House Republicans, and basically, when it's all said and done, scrapping the whole thing.
39.
Yeah, and people say, oh, well, they really weren't defunding it. In effect, they were. Now, that wasn't going to get through the Senate, and certainly wasn't going to get past the president's desk, but it speaks to the unease of Democrats with the midterms next fall. I mean, we have Democrats like Sean Patrick Maloney in our region, and others who are considered certainly, if not moderate, progressives, saying no.
Tim Bishop on Long Island.
Tim
voted
Bishop
no.
on Long Island, another good one. It speaks volumes, I think, to just how worried they are, how much this thing's going to not only hurt now, but it's going to drag into next year.
You know, it's amazing. Between October 1st and October 15th, we were talking about the government shutdown and will this cost Republicans not just a shot to win the Senate, but a shot of keeping control of the House. With the problems that Obamacare is having and the political cost, it's not only eroded that, if not entirely eroded that, you're beginning to wonder, well, are Democrats going to lose the Senate as a result of this? Or, you know, are Republicans going to increase their lead in the House? Normally on an off-year election like 2014, a midterm, the out party, the party that doesn't have the White House, tends to pick up seats. This is big trouble for Democrats.
And the problem is, even if they get the site fixed, the president, even if he wanted to, and he never would, he can't pull the plug on this. We're half pregnant with this thing. He's got to see this thing through. Now, maybe he can extend deadlines, he can do whatever else, but at the end of the day, for good or for bad, he's in this thing. And the Republicans historically always overplay these things, and we're going to have key dates coming up with government shutdown, the debt limit debate, and all that all over again. But if they're smart, they either stay quiet or they don't talk about defunding it, they start getting the changes they want. That might help the president, but also might give them a few victories here. So it'll be fascinating how this next 60, 90 days really plays out. Okay. When we come back, we're going to talk about an issue that we saw play out nationally today. And I'm talking about Common Core. And if you're a parent like me and you see your kids take a test after test, there's the questions if this is better for our kids' education or if they're just learning to take tests and not learning. We're going to get into that debate with a special guest right after this. Stay with us.